The asterisk borderline crazy asterisk drifted through the cold, unforgiving darkness of deep space like a tired worker dragging home after a long shift. Its hull was scarred with countless micro-impacts, a testament to years of service in the most unforgiving regions of human-explored space. Marcus Chen sat in the engineering bay, his eyes fixed on a holographic display of the ship's system diagnostics, completely unaware that his life was about to change forever. At 32, Marcus was neither a hero nor a dreamer. He was a practical man, a maintenance engineer who took pride in keeping machinery running smoothly. His dark hair was usually messy, his uniform perpetually wrinkled, and his hands permanently stained with machine grease. Most of his colleagues considered him unremarkable, but those who worked closely with him knew he had an almost magical ability to fix what others thought was beyond repair. The ship's communication system crackled to life, breaking the monotonous hum of machinery. Captain Rodriguez's voice was sharp and irritated. "We're not responding to that distress signal. I repeat, we are not responding." Marcus looked up from his console, curiosity flickering in his eyes. The captain's words were unusual, even for the notoriously tough Rodriguez. In the outer rim of explored space, distress signals were common, and most were traps designed to lure unsuspecting ships for piracy or worse. "What kind of signal?" Marcus asked, walking towards the bridge. Rodriguez didn't even turn around. "Alien. Unknown frequency. Somewhere in the Razor asteroid field." He spat the words like they were poison. "We're not risking the ship." End of discussion. But Marcus knew the Razor asteroid field. He had mapped its treacherous routes during previous missions. Most pilots avoided it, a region so dense with randomly moving space rocks that navigation was nearly impossible. Survival rates for ships entering the field were less than 10%. Something in the transmission caught Marcus's attention. A series of mathematical sequences hidden within the distress call, complex, yet with an underlying pattern that suggested intelligence. It wasn't a typical pirate trap. This was something different. "Captain," Marcus said quietly, "I think this might be genuine." Rodriguez laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "And I think you're crazy. We're a mining support vessel, not a rescue ship." Marcus didn't argue. Instead, he walked back to the engineering bay and began preparing the emergency rescue pod. It was an old model, barely functional, with systems that were more hope than hardware. But Marcus had a reputation for making impossible things work. He modified the pod's navigation system, using spare parts and his intimate knowledge of asteroid field dynamics. He added extra shielding, rerouted power from non-essential systems, and created a custom algorithm that could predict asteroid movements milliseconds in advance. The rescue pod wasn't beautiful. It looked like a collection of mismatched parts, held together by determination and duct tape. But when Marcus ran his final diagnostics, every system showed green. Just as he was about to launch, Captain Rodriguez entered the bay. "Chen, what the hell are you doing?" "Saving someone's life," Marcus replied simply. The captain started to protest, but Marcus was already strapping himself into the pod. The launch sequence began, and moments later, he was navigating through the most dangerous asteroid field in known space. His hands moved with practiced precision. Each asteroid was a potential death sentence, but Marcus saw them as puzzles to be solved. He didn't see obstacles. He saw opportunities to prove that human ingenuity could overcome any challenge. Little did Marcus know that beyond those spinning rocks of death, an alien queen waited, her life hanging by a thread, her entire civilization's future resting on this unlikely rescue. Sometimes heroes aren't born. They're just people who refuse to look away when someone needs help. The medical bay of the asterisk borderline crazy asterisk hummed with an eerie silence. Marcus Chen stood awkwardly beside the recovery bed, watching the alien queen slowly regain consciousness. Her skin, a shimmering mix of deep purple and metallic silver, looked like living metal, shifting and changing with each breath. Queen Solara of the Zarnak Empire was not what anyone would expect of a monarch. Even gravely injured, she radiated a sense of power that made Marcus feel like he was standing next to a live electrical current. Her multiple eyes, 4 in total, arranged in a diamond pattern across her forehead, slowly focused on him. "You," she said. The translator implant crackled, turning her complex language into basic human speech. "You are my savior." Marcus shuffled uncomfortably. "Just doing my job," he mumbled, running a hand through his messy hair. He was used to machinery, not conversations with alien royalty. The medical eye nearby began displaying her vital signs. Marcus could see she was far from fully recovered, but her strength was remarkable. Most biological beings would have died in the conditions she'd survived, trapped in a failing ship, surrounded by deadly asteroids, with critical system failures. What Marcus didn't know was that he had just triggered the most complex social protocol in Zarnak history. In Zarnak culture, a life debt was not a simple matter of gratitude. It was a sacred, unbreakable bond that demanded the highest form of repayment. And the highest repayment for a royal life was marriage. Queen Solera studied Marcus with her 4 eyes. Humans were considered a minor species in the galactic hierarchy, technologically primitive, socially underdeveloped. But this human had done something no other being had managed in centuries. He had navigated the Razor asteroid field and saved her life when entire fleets would have considered the mission impossible. "You will be my mate," she stated. It was not a question. Marcus choked. "Excuse me." The medical eye helpfully translated her statement, adding cultural context that made Marcus's head spin. According to Zarnak law, a life debt of this magnitude could only be repaid through complete social and biological integration. Marriage was not a choice, it was a requirement. Captain Rodriguez, who had been monitoring the conversation, burst into the medical bay. "Absolutely not," he declared. "This is ridiculous." Solera's 4 eyes focused on the captain. When she spoke, the translator conveyed a tone that was part royal decree, part scientific observation. "The human has performed an act of such statistical improbability that he has essentially rewritten my understanding of biological survival potential." Marcus looked confused. The captain looked angry. The medical eye continued to display vital signs, utterly indifferent to the drama unfolding. "I'm just an engineer," Marcus tried to explain. "I fix things. I don't. I can't just get married to an alien queen." But Zarnak law was absolute. A life debt was a life debt. And Queen Solera had already begun the formal bonding protocols. Small tendrils of metallic biomaterial were already extending from her skin, the first stage of Zarnak marriage preparation. The ship's communication system lit up. Incoming transmissions from multiple galactic authorities began flooding in. News traveled fast, and the idea of a human engineer accidentally becoming the consort of an alien queen was too spectacular to ignore. Marcus Chen, who had spent his entire life believing he was utterly ordinary, was about to become the most talked-about person in the known universe, and he had no idea how to stop it. Outside the medical bay, the borderline crazy asterisk continued its journey through space, but nothing would be the same again. The universe had just changed, and it all started with a simple rescue mission. The holographic displays in the United Earth Diplomatic Corps headquarters erupted with more chaos than a supernova. Marcus Chen's face, a slightly blurry image from the borderline crazy asterisk's communication log, was now the most discussed topic across human-controlled space. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, no relation to the ship's captain, pinched the bridge of her nose. She had dealt with complex alien negotiations before, but this was something entirely different. An alien queen proposing marriage to a low-level human maintenance engineer. It was beyond diplomatic precedent. "His background check is unremarkable," said Dr. James Liu, the xenosociological expert, scrolling through Marcus's personnel file. "Average academic performance. No outstanding achievements. Consistently rated as competent but not exceptional in his engineering evaluations. The room full of diplomats, scientists, and political analysts stared at the holographic projection of Marcus. He looked like the most ordinary man in the universe, which made the entire situation even more bizarre. Across the galaxy, the Zarnak Empire was experiencing its own internal storm. The Royal Council chamber buzzed with heated discussions. Holographic representations of senior council members argued in their complex, multi-tonal language. "A human," one elder exclaimed. "Our queen wishes to bond with the species most consider technologically primitive." Another council member, more pragmatic, responded, "Have you reviewed the asteroid field rescue data? The mathematical precision of his navigation, the improvised life support modifications. This is not an ordinary being." Back on Earth, Marcus Chen remained blissfully unaware of the galactic scale drama he had accidentally triggered. He was still in the medical bay of the borderline crazy asterisk, trying to understand how he had gone from being the simple maintenance engineer to a potential alien royal consort in less than 48 hours. Queen Salura watched him with her four-eyed gaze. To her, Marcus represented something far more significant than just a life debt recipient. He was a biological anomaly, a human who had defied statistical probability and completed a rescue mission that should have been impossible. The media went wild. News networks created endless speculation segments. Memes spread faster than light-speed communications. Marcus Chen became an overnight sensation, the most famous maintenance engineer in human history. Military strategists began analyzing the potential implications. A direct connection to the Zarnak royal family could dramatically shift human-alien diplomatic relations. Some saw opportunity, others saw potential disaster. "Do you understand what's happening?" Marcus asked Captain Rodriguez, who looked like he was developing an ulcer. "Absolutely not," the captain replied. "And I'm not sure I want to." The first official communications between human diplomatic corps and the Zarnak Empire began. Translators worked overtime, decoding not just language, but the complex cultural nuances of a life-debt marriage proposal. Dr. Liu discovered something fascinating in the initial data. The mathematical sequences in the original distress signal, the same ones that had caught Marcus's attention, were not random. They were a complex cultural invitation, a challenge embedded in the rescue request. Marcus had unknowingly passed a test that the Zarnak considered virtually impossible for any species to complete. As diplomatic channels began their complex negotiations, one thing became clear. Marcus Chen was no longer just a maintenance engineer. He had become a pivotal point in galactic relations, a human who had accidentally stepped into a role that would reshape interspecies understanding. The universe, it seemed, had been waiting for someone exactly like him. Someone who saw challenges as puzzles to be solved, who didn't understand the word impossible. Outside the ship, stars continued their silent dance. But everything had changed. The Zarnak trial chamber was unlike anything Marcus Chen had ever seen. Massive crystalline structures shifted and changed color with each movement, creating an environment that was part technology, part living organism. 4 senior council members watched him with their diamond-pattern eyes, each gaze holding the weight of millennia of tradition. "Your first trial begins now," announced Elder Krovax, his voice a melodic combination of clicks and harmonic tones that the translation device struggled to capture completely. Marcus looked down at the platform beneath his feet. What had started as a simple rescue mission had transformed into something entirely unpredictable. He was wearing a specially designed environmental suit, a compromise between human and Zarnak biological requirements that hummed with adaptive technologies. The first trial materialized around him. A complex three-dimensional puzzle of energy conduits and quantum entanglement nodes appeared. To the Zarnak, this was a test of spatial reasoning that had broken the minds of countless potential royal consorts. The puzzle shifted and changed, its components dancing with mathematical precision that would drive most beings to madness. But Marcus saw something different. Where others might see chaos, he saw a system. His years of engineering had taught him that every complex problem was just a collection of simpler problems waiting to be solved. His hands moved almost unconsciously, rerouting energy flows, understanding the underlying logic of the quantum entanglement. The council members exchanged surprised glances. The second trial was even more challenging. A holographic representation of a failing starship system appeared. Marcus had to reconstruct the ship's core functionality using limited resources, but with additional constraints that would make most engineers give up immediately. Zarnak trials were designed to be impossible. They were meant to test not just intelligence, but adaptability, creativity, and problem-solving under extreme pressure. Marcus approached the challenge like he would any complex machinery repair. He broke down the problem, identified critical systems, and began improvising solutions. He used the environmental suit's computational resources in ways the Zarnak had never anticipated. Where they expected rigid thinking, he brought flexibility. "Fascinating," muttered Elder Krovax. The universal translator caught the wonder in his voice. The third trial pushed the boundaries of scientific understanding. Marcus was presented with a nanotechnological ecosystem, a miniature world of interconnected systems that responded to the slightest change in environmental conditions. The challenge was to stabilize the ecosystem without disrupting its fundamental balance. Most candidates would attempt to control the system directly. Marcus did something different. He observed, he understood, and then he made minimal, strategic interventions that allowed the system to find its own equilibrium. Queen Xalura watched from a separate chamber, her 4 eyes tracking every movement. This was more than a test of a potential mate. This was a test of an entire species' potential. As hours passed, the trials continued. Each challenge was designed to break Marcus's spirit, to prove the superiority of Zarnak intellect. But Marcus didn't see them as challenges. He saw them as interesting problems waiting to be solved. The last trial was perhaps the most complex, a multi-dimensional strategic simulation that required understanding of quantum mechanics, biological systems, and interstellar diplomacy. It was a test that had broken the most brilliant minds in the galaxy. Marcus solved it in half the expected time. When the trials concluded, the council chamber was silent. The crystalline structures pulsed with an energy that spoke of fundamental shift happening. Elder Krovax turned to Queen Xalura. "Your chosen mate is not what we expected." Marcus, covered in sweat and looking slightly confused, simply asked, "Did I pass?" The universe, it seemed, was about to change. The shadows in the diplomatic chamber ran deeper than anyone could have imagined. While Marcus Chen celebrated his successful trials, a different drama was unfolding in the hidden corridors of power. Admiral Vexterra of the Zarnak Defensive Fleet sat in a secure communication pod, her multiple eyes flickering with a mixture of anger and calculation. The rescue of Queen Xalura was not the simple incident everyone believed it to be. The human cannot be allowed to complete the bonding, she whispered to her co-conspirator, a holographic projection of a shadowy figure from the Zarnak High Council. The attack on the Queen had been carefully planned. What looked like a random assault was actually a precisely orchestrated mission to destabilize the Zarnak Empire's leadership. Marcus's unexpected rescue had thrown everything into chaos. Back on the asterisk borderline crazy asterisk, Captain Rodriguez received an encrypted communication that made his blood run cold. The message was simple but devastating. Marcus Chen was now a target. Multiple factions, both human and alien, wanted him eliminated before he could fully understand the significance of his rescue. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the human ambassador, discovered the first pieces of the puzzle. The mathematical sequences in the original distress signal were more than just a communication method. They were a complex encryption that hid a secret so significant it could reshape galactic politics. "This goes beyond a simple rescue," she told her team, spreading holographic documents across the briefing table. Someone wanted the Queen to die, and Marcus's intervention was not just luck. Meanwhile, Marcus remained blissfully unaware of the target on his back. He was more concerned with understanding Zarnak culture and preparing for the next stage of his unexpected marriage process. Queen Solera watched him with a mixture of amusement and calculation. The resistance came from multiple fronts. Conservative human politicians feared the diplomatic implications of a human-alien royal marriage. Zarnak traditionalists saw Marcus as a threat to their centuries-old social structures. And behind them all, a shadowy network of actors worked to prevent the union from happening. An assassination attempt came sooner than anyone expected. During a routine system check on the borderline crazy Marcus noticed something unusual about the ship's navigation protocols. His engineering instincts kicked in. What looked like a simple calibration error was actually a carefully planted virus designed to cause a catastrophic system failure. This wasn't an accident, he told Captain Rodriguez, pointing out the intricate coding. Someone wants to kill me. The captain looked grim. The political storm surrounding Marcus had turned him from an ordinary maintenance engineer into the most protected and most hunted individual in known space. Queen Solera revealed more about the attack that had initially brought them together. It was part of a larger plan to destabilize the Zarnak royal lineage. Marcus's rescue had not just saved a queen. It had exposed a complex conspiracy that stretched across multiple star systems. "You have no idea how important you've become," she told Marcus, her 4 eyes reflecting a depth of understanding that transcended simple biology. Human intelligence agencies, Zarnak royal investigators, and independent investigators began connecting the dots. The rescue was just the beginning of a much larger story, a story that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Marcus Chen, who had spent his entire life believing he was ordinary, was now at the center of a galactic storm. His simple act of rescue had become something far more significant, a moment that would be remembered in history books. As the borderline crazy continued its journey through the vast darkness of space, the real adventure was just beginning. And no one, not the conspirators, not the politicians, not even Marcus himself, knew exactly where it would lead. The training chamber hummed with an energy that was both alien and strangely familiar. Marcus Chen stood at its center, surrounded by holographic projections that danced and shifted like living mathematics. 3 weeks had passed since his initial trials, and he was no longer the same maintenance engineer who had accidentally rescued an alien queen. Queen Solera watched from an observation platform, her 4 eyes tracking every movement with scientific precision. "You are adapting," she observed, in ways our species did not predict. Marcus's body had been subtly modified by Zarnak bioadaptive technologies. What started as protective gear had become something more, a symbiotic interface that enhanced his natural human capabilities. His hands moved differently now, more precisely, understanding complex systems with an intuition that blurred the line between engineering and organic intelligence. The conspirators who had planned the Queen's initial attack were watching too, but not in the way they expected. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the human ambassador, reviewed the latest medical and technological reports. Marcus was becoming something unprecedented, a bridge between human potential and advanced alien technology. His modifications weren't just physical. His understanding of quantum mechanics, interstellar navigation, and alien communication protocols was expanding at an exponential rate. "He's learning faster than any known biological system," her chief scientist reported. "It's like his brain is rewriting its own neural pathways." Marcus discovered the first real hint of the larger conspiracy during a seemingly routine training exercise. The mathematical sequences that had originally been hidden in the distress signal began to make sense. They weren't just a communication method. They were a complex key to understanding galactic power dynamics. "Why me?" he asked Queen Solera during one of their increasingly complex conversations. She explained something fundamental about the Zarnak approach to evolution and intelligence. Potential is not measured by current capability, but by adaptability. Humans have something unique, a capacity to transform that defies standard biological predictability. The borderline crazy had been transformed too. What was once a simple mining support vessel was now a focal point of galactic attention. Its engineering systems had been upgraded, merged with Zarnak technologies that made it virtually undetectable to standard tracking methods. Captain Rodriguez found himself in a role he never expected. No longer just a ship's captain, he was now a key player in a game of interstellar politics that few could comprehend. The modifications to the ship, and to Marcus, were creating capabilities that challenged existing understanding of technological development. Marcus began to understand the true nature of his rescue. The attack on the Queen was more than a simple assassination attempt. It was a complex political maneuver designed to destabilize the delicate balance of power in multiple star systems. His engineering background became his greatest strength. Where others saw complex problems, Marcus saw systems waiting to be understood. He could now read alien communication protocols that would have driven most humans to madness. The bioadaptive technologies were teaching him to think in ways that transcended traditional human limitations. Queen Xalera revealed more about the conspiracy. The mathematical sequences were a form of galactic-scale encryption, a method of communication so complex that only beings with specific cognitive adaptations could understand them. "You are becoming a translator," she told him. "Not just of language, but of entire systemic understanding." The human diplomatic corps watched with a mixture of fear and excitement. Marcus Chen was no longer just a maintenance engineer. He was becoming something more, a living bridge between human potential and galactic complexity. As the asterisk borderline crazy asterisk continued its journey through the vast darkness of space, Marcus looked out at the stars. They no longer seemed like distant, cold points of light. They were complex systems, waiting to be understood. The universe was changing, and he was at the center of that change. The enemy fleet emerged from quantum shift space like a nightmare given mechanical form. Massive ships with designs that defied conventional understanding of physics gathered at the edge of the Zarnak border. These were the Voidborn, a collective of species united by their desire to destroy the delicate balance of galactic power. Admiral Vexterra's holographic projection flickered in the strategy chamber of the asterisk borderline crazy asterisk. "They're coming," she said, her four eyes reflecting a calculation that went beyond simple military strategy. "And they know about Marcus." The attack was no longer just about removing Queen Xalera from power. It had become something far more significant, a targeted assault on the potential represented by the human Zarnak Union. Marcus Chen stood at the center of a holographic tactical display, looking both out of place and surprisingly calm. The bioadaptive technologies that had been integrated into his body hummed with an energy that was part biological, part technological. He was no longer just an engineer. He had become something else entirely. "The mathematical sequences," he said, tracing complex patterns on the holographic interface, "they're not just a communication method. They're a weapon." Queen Xalera moved closer, her body language a complex dance of royal authority and scientific curiosity. "Explain," she commanded. Marcus pointed to the intricate holographic projection. The sequences that had been hidden in the original distress signal were actually a complex encryption method, a way of transmitting information that could destabilize entire star systems. The Voidborn wanted to prevent this knowledge from spreading. Captain Rodriguez watched the preparations with a mixture of fear and grudging respect. The asterisk borderline crazy asterisk had been transformed from a simple mining support vessel into the most technologically advanced ship in human-explored space. Zarnak adaptive technologies merged with human engineering created capabilities that defied traditional understanding. The first wave of Voidborn ships attacked without warning. Traditional defensive systems would have been overwhelmed in seconds, but Marcus and the ship's integrated systems responded in ways no one could have predicted. He didn't fight like a traditional military commander. He approached the attack like an engineering problem, identifying system weaknesses, predicting movement patterns, creating adaptive counter-strategies that changed faster than the enemy could comprehend. "They're using quantum entanglement as a weapon," Marcus explained, his hands moving across multiple holographic interfaces simultaneously. but they don't understand the full potential of the system. Queen Xalura watched in fascination. Humans were supposed to be a minor species, technologically primitive, socially underdeveloped. But Marcus was proving something fundamental about human potential. The battle was unlike anything in galactic records. Where traditional military strategies relied on brute force and predetermined tactics, Marcus created a living, breathing defense system that adapted in real time. The asterisk borderline crazy asterisk moved like a living organism, its systems responding to threats before they fully materialized. Diplomatic channels exploded with activity. Multiple species watched the conflict, understanding that this was more than a simple military engagement. This was a test of a fundamental galactic hypothesis, the true potential of biological-technological integration. Admiral Vexterra's plan had been simple: destroy the Queen, eliminate the human, prevent the transfer of knowledge. But Marcus had turned their carefully constructed strategy into a complex puzzle that was rapidly falling apart. As Voidborn ships began to fall, not destroyed, but systematically disabled in ways that defied conventional warfare, the true nature of the conflict became clear. This was a war of understanding, of potential, of the ability to see systems in ways others could not. Marcus Chen, the maintenance engineer who had accidentally rescued a queen, was now the most important being in known space. The universe watched and waited. The quantum breach opened like a wound in space itself. Massive Voidborn ships poured through, their technology so advanced it looked like living darkness. At the center of this invasion stood the primary threat, a massive command vessel that made even the most advanced Zarnak ships look primitive. Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the asterisk borderline crazy asterisk, no longer looking like the simple maintenance engineer he once was. The bioadaptive technologies had transformed him into something between human and something entirely new. Queen Xalura stood beside him, their connection more than just a potential marriage. They were now a unified strategic entity. "They're targeting the encryption sequences," Marcus said, his voice calm despite the chaos surrounding them. His hands moved across holographic interfaces, creating defensive patterns that seemed to dance between mathematical precision and pure intuition. Captain Rodriguez gripped the ship's command console. The asterisk borderline crazy asterisk was no longer just a ship. It had become a living weapon, its systems so deeply integrated with Marcus's modified neural pathways that the line between biological and technological had blurred completely. The Voidborn's primary strategy was clear: destroy the knowledge that Marcus represented. The mathematical sequences hidden in the original distress signal were more than just communication. They were a key to understanding galactic power dynamics in ways no species had ever comprehended. Queen Xalura's 4 eyes tracked multiple tactical projections simultaneously. "They fear what you represent," she told Marcus. "A species capable of understanding beyond traditional biological limitations." The first wave of attacks came with quantum precision. Weapons that could destroy entire planetary systems targeted the asterisk borderline crazy asterisk. But Marcus didn't fight like a traditional commander. He treated the attack like the most complex engineering problem he had ever encountered. Adaptive shields formed patterns that defied conventional physics. The ship moved not just through space, but through potential space, anticipating attacks before they could fully materialize. Marcus's modified neural network was processing information at speeds that made artificial intelligence look slow. "They're using quantum entanglement as a weapon," he explained, almost casually. "But they don't understand the full potential of the system." The battle became a dance of impossible complexity. Voidborn ships that should have been invincible found themselves systematically neutralized, not destroyed, but rendered completely inoperable in ways that challenged everything known about space warfare. Admiral Vexterra, watching from her command vessel, realized something fundamental had changed. This was no longer a simple military engagement. This was a fundamental challenge to everything the Voidborn understood about technological superiority. Marcus and Queen Xalura worked as a single unit. Their connection went beyond the traditional understanding of partnership. They were creating strategies that emerged from a fusion of human adaptability and Zarnak technological understanding. The primary Voidborn command ship began to concentrate its full power. This was their ultimate weapon, a quantum phase disruptor capable of unmaking entire star systems. Marcus saw the attack forming before it could fully materialize. "Not today," he said simply. Using a combination of modified mining equipment, adaptive neural networks, and a fundamental understanding of quantum mechanics that no single species had ever achieved, Marcus began to redirect the attack. The quantum breach started to collapse, not through brute force, but through a complex redirection of energy that made the attack consume itself. The Voidborn command ship began to break down, its most advanced technologies turned against it by a strategy that was part mathematics, part intuition, and part something entirely new. Queen Xalura watched with a mixture of scientific fascination and growing respect. "Humans," she said, "are not what the galaxy believed them to be." As the last Voidborn ships were systematically neutralized, Marcus Chen looked out at the stars. They were no longer just distant points of light. They were complex systems waiting to be understood. The universe had just changed, and it all started with a simple rescue mission. The Galactic Conference Hall was unlike anything humans had seen before. Crystalline structures shifted and pulsed with living light, representing technologies far beyond human understanding. Yet at the center of it all stood Marcus Chen, no longer just a maintenance engineer, but something far more significant. 3 months had passed since the battle that had reshaped galactic politics. The asterisk borderline crazy asterisk sat in orbit, now a symbol of human potential rather than a simple mining support vessel. Queen Xalura stood beside Marcus, their connection more than a potential marriage. They were now a unified force that challenged everything known about interspecies relationships. "The human demonstrates capabilities we did not anticipate," announced Elder Krovax, addressing representatives from hundreds of different species. His four-eyed gaze swept across the assembled diplomatic corps. "Marcus Chen is not just an individual. He represents a fundamental shift in our understanding of biological potential." Captain Rodriguez, standing at the back of the hall, could hardly believe the journey that had brought them here. The maintenance engineer he once knew had transformed into a being that bridged multiple species' understanding of technology, communication, and potential. The mathematical sequences that had been hidden in the original distress signal were now being studied as a revolutionary form of communication. Marcus had not just decoded them. He had demonstrated how they could be used to create unprecedented levels of understanding between different species. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the human ambassador, presented the initial findings. Marcus's neural modifications, combined with the Zarnak bioadaptive technologies, had created something entirely new. He could process information, communicate, and strategize in ways that defied previous understanding of biological intelligence. "We are not just looking at a diplomatic breakthrough," she explained, "but a fundamental reimagining of what biological intelligence can achieve." The Voidborn's defeat had sent shockwaves through the galactic community. What was once considered a technologically superior force had been systematically neutralized by a human who approached complex problems with the mindset of a maintenance engineer. Queen Xalura spoke next. Her voice, translated through complex linguistic interfaces, carried a weight of scientific precision and royal authority. "Marcus Chen represents more than an individual achievement. He is a bridge between species, a demonstration of the potential that emerges when different forms of intelligence truly connect." The marriage proposal that had started this entire journey was now seen as something far more significant. It was a symbolic union of different ways of understanding the universe, a merging of human adaptability with advanced alien technology. Representatives from multiple species studied Marcus with a mixture of fear, respect, and scientific curiosity. Humans, once considered a minor species, were now at the center of a fundamental shift in galactic understanding. "The universe is more complex than any single species can comprehend," Marcus said, his voice calm and clear. "But together, we can begin to understand." The bioadaptive technologies that had transformed him continued to evolve. Marcus was no longer just a human or a potential royal consort. He had become a living example of the potential that emerges when different forms of intelligence truly communicate. Captain Rodriguez approached him after the conference. "Who would have thought," he said, "that a simple rescue mission would change everything?" Marcus smiled. The stars outside the conference hall seemed different now, no longer just distant points of light, but complex systems full of potential and possibility. The borderline crazy asterisk sat in orbit, a testament to a journey that had started with a single act of unexpected heroism. Marcus Chen, the maintenance engineer who had accidentally rescued a queen, had rewritten the rules of galactic interaction. The universe watched and waited, understanding that everything had changed.